Hello, good morning, dearest gentle viewers. You're most welcome to the show. You're watching Focus on Parliament, a show where we help you make sense of what is going on in the Parliament of Uganda. Parliament is the National Assembly where you, me, and everyone else is represented for legislation, oversight, and other governmental responsibilities. On this edition of Focus on Parliament, we will take you through what has transpired during this week in Parliament. A number of bills have come through and have been passed. Issues to do with accountability, especially the Iron Sheets saga. You remember the DPP discontinued prosecution, and so much more will be coming through. I am your host, Harris Akampurira. Most welcome, gentlemen and lady. Great. I introduced my panel, starting on my extreme left, my brother, a lawyer, and media personality, is a common face on this television. Okotola, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Harris.
Welcome back from Germany.
Thank you.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I did, and you can see with the signature.
I see.
Yeah, with the signature look.
All right,
Yeah.
you're most welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Alex is also a brother of mine. He likes to say he's a Munya Acholi.
Yeah.
Cromwell Peter is a Rotary Peace Fellow at Makerere University. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you, Harris, and good morning, viewers.
Thank you. Next is Rathia Narwanga, who is a lecturer at Islamic University and also the manager at Hijaz Finance, a financial institution that is based on the foundation of Islamic banking in Uganda. You're most welcome, Rathia.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Good morning, viewers.
How is Islamic University?
Actually, Islamic is happy
Yes.
for the information, for the bills that have been passed.
Okay.
Basically, we hope to benefit from them.
All right, you'll tell us much more later on the show about the bills. I see, indeed, you're very happy, and many other members of Parliament that do support Islamic banking.
I need to thank the
Honorable
Honorable for that great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last but by no means the least is Honorable Alepel Moses, Member of Parliament from Chekwi constituency. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Harris. Good morning, viewers. It's a pleasure being here again today. Thank you.
How are the gallant people of Chekwi County?
Yeah, they're fine, only that we have a challenge of insecurity in that part of Karamoja. That is escalating. And this started way back in April. But it is getting addressed. At least we have engaged the security forces, and they are to it right now. Yeah, thank you.
Well, talking about security, maybe we can, begin with that bit of the conversation. I think this, starting from about March, it has been hard for the country in terms of national security. The other time we are told we had, the terrorist attack in Kasese, where we lost over 42 people, including 37 students. And now recently we are told of the resurgence of, criminality in the district of Masaka. Remember, it's a district that had a lot of murders. Gentlemen and lady, what do you make of the state of security in this country?
Yeah, well, I would just like to say I think this has been quite a challenging month for the country, especially where we lost over 40 people in Kasese. Of course, a lot has been talked about it, especially that there were lapses, I think, in security and also surveillance by the locals. But from what we know, action has been taken to restore calm in the region. And I think we have to applaud the security forces for the response so far. Great calm in that part of the country. But of course, when that had just gone past, then we had that gruesome murder in Masaga, Greater Masaka region, where 5 family members were lost. Of course, that really reflects how fluid an unpredictable security situation is still in this country. And it's food for thought, I think, for this country. Yeah.
But as a member of parliament who receives these reports, intelligence reports, security reports, from where you stand, can we really still speak confidently and assure Ugandans that their security, their personal security, and the security of their properties can be guaranteed?
Surely, I think to be very honest, though there are these lapses in the security apparatus and such happening, the fact that in some parts of the country, the wider part of the country, it is not so consistent, that definitely shows that the government is in control. But I also want to mention that, particularly in Karamoja, this insecurity has persisted, as you rightfully said, since February 2023. The situation has gotten worse and worse. But fortunately, after the noise or the alarm that has been made by the region, right now the security forces are reorganizing. I was in the constituency just a few days ago, and we had engagement with the new command in the region. And he's listening in, and he has taken some particular decisions and deployments. I think that is calming the situation. I can authoritatively say for the past 2 weeks, there's been very relative calm in the region, especially where I come from. Yeah.
Hajat Radhia,
Yes.
some of the targets of insecurity, or if victims of gun violence, if we may say, robberies, are money institutions, mobile money shops. As a manager of a financial institution, do you feel safe?
Actually, when you have to consider it, you have to look into this issue on a broader perspective. Basically, I may say that the government is doing its role. It comes back to us on individual institutions. If you talk about like where I manage my agents, I have to make sure as the manager, together with my management, that the security is in place. We have private firms that do offer security services. It becomes incumbent on that very institution to make sure that there is a personnel in charge of security. When you look into the mobile money service providers, basically you consider their working environment. In most cases, they're in those, what can I term them? I may say in those busy areas whereby it is hard to locate who is the right person, who is not right, or what we need to employ these people. Basically, if you're serious in your business, you have to consider security as something very, very paramount. Back to institutions, you have to remember that you're working, you're dealing in money. And money, it is the blood of the life of everyone. And the money you're dealing in is not yours. It's not for the directors only, not for the shareholders only. It is the depositors' money. So because you said at the beginning that I'm going to provide security, I'm providing safe custody to these people's money, you have to make sure that you do so. Basically, we can't put it on the government because if you are to do so, you have to consider what does the police do. If at all is the police agencies and UPDF that are doing so, we would blame the government. But since it is not the case, we have to consider that on our private arrangement.
But isn't it the primary responsibility of government to secure the property and person of every individual in this country? Primarily,
the government is doing its role. Primarily. Because once you make alarm, like Honorable has talked about the issue of massacre and at their place, Karamoja. If at all the government did not come out to see that it puts more security in place, we would say so. Okay? But individually, you have to consider that.
All right.
Our lawyers can normally give us a recap on what you see, and even the acts and the regulations. I think they consider that, they do talk about it. What are the rules? What do you have to follow up? Actually, when you go for a license to do this kind of business, they consider all that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Cromwell,
Yes.
do you agree with Honorable Pell and Hajat Radhia on the state of security?
Well, to some degree, I agree with him, but in most cases, I don't agree. First of all, he started by indicating that his constituency and Karamoja, the security situation is escalating, it's going up high. And he again contradicted himself and said things have been contained, unfortunately. Well, the security gaps that we have unfolding in Karamoja is some kind of issue that I believe has been left to happen, because indeed this is a very, we have a strong government with a well-established armed forces, with all the security apparatus everywhere. We start from the district internal security officer, we have the RDCs, we have the police commanders, and so on, everywhere. That's where I am now questioning whether really they are doing the work on which the president has assigned them to do. Secondly, there is a gap in community policy. My father was the chairman RC1 years ago when the NRA first came to power, and everyone that visits our village had to be reported to the chairman. So today, Honorable Lepe has come from Chekwi to Abim, to a Ting village. He is here with me for 3 days, and he's here for this purpose, and he'll be going back. These days, we don't have that in anywhere across the country. But if that was the case, we would be able to track the criminals, arrest them, and help them to face the law. So the Karamoja situation is still not very good, although of course I'm aware that the current commander or the division commanders are doing something far better than the previous ones, and I really appreciate the kind of work that they are doing.
Which
that
means you
needs
agree
to be,
with Honorable Pell?
Well, I am saying it does not necessarily mean that does not necessarily mean that there's peace in Karamoja.
But
Abim right now, people are 7 people are in the
Let
houses.
me push back a little bit. You know, the security situation of Karamoja has been protracted. You have periods when you feel that stability and peace are being established, and then after then you have an emergence. What's at the core of the problem? Can you help our viewers understand?
I think it is the withdrawal. We initiate projects which we should sustain, and then we withdraw owing to some other factors. I recall very well when the LRA was disturbing the greater northern Uganda, whenever they withdraw forces, the UPDF to go and fight the LRA, you find Karamoja also gets back to more insecurity. But when the other side cools down, then Karamoja also, they bring back the army, and situations of peace also tend to normalize. But also, I must be honest to say that the problem of Karamoja cannot be settled in 1-2 years. These are issues that require the government that has been in power for over 37 years to have done more. By now, we'll be having irrigation scheme in Karamoja that is employing farmers. By now, we'll be having well-established industries in Karamoja, employing young people who are involved in criminalities. By now, we'll be having increased the educational attainment. Karamoja stands at 25% literacy rate. That is appalling. Human Development Index in Karamoja is really exceedingly low, and we all government accountable for that.
Oh, Council Ola, what I gather from colleagues here on the panel is that there is a serious economic dimension to the security problem in Uganda. I know you're a lawyer, a researcher, political researcher, and a journalist. From your perspective, your vantage point, what can you tell our viewers about the deteriorating security problem in the country?
I think, thank you very much, first of all, Harris, for having me here today. It's good to be on the side where I answer questions.
Yes, you're used to asking.
I'm used to asking questions, and I'll enjoy my privileges while I still can.
For sure.
A hopeless young man
Yeah.
is a deadly arsenal in any community. We need to reason, and this is the beauty of our humanity. When things like a family of 5 is short, a school of 49 students is short in Kasese, we then have to start reasoning. And your format of questioning is really important because we try to get down to the deepest factors. The type of security of 2023 in Uganda is not the insecurity of the 1980s, of the 1970s, of the 1960s. We had a time, remember, we were colonized for 60 years.
True.
A time where we lost our identity. We lost our sense of self. We started to hate ourselves. And when you hate yourself, you hate your brother.
True.
You know, and we start to fight each other after independence. The politics is mobilized around tribe. Let's say, let us defeat the Acholi.
True.
Let us defeat the Banyankole. Let us defeat the Baganda.
True.
And this dominated political rhetoric for about the first 20, 30 years. Then we have a government who forms an idea. They sit and say, our idea is not going to be a government of religion. We can confirm that. You never see the president waking up to say, thank Jesus, whether he's a Christian or not. We have a government of tribe is there, but it's no longer a security. It's more a tool of political mobilization. And even when you examine the political mobilization right now, when people say NUP is Buganda, it's actually the urban poor. It's more of a class, and you'll find a lot of Acholi youth who migrated during the war and live in the slums within those sections. So critically speaking, it's more a class struggle now than a tribal struggle. Yeah? The actually ghetto youth from Karamoja will be in NUP, and of course, out of political dissent, mobilization, terms like Baganda shall be thrown upon them. But we know we live this. The biggest threat is the poor urban youth, or the poor male youth that we have in this country. And therefore, the idea of security of 1986 served its purpose, and we lived in its purpose. It's why to some extent, everyone says to some extent, we feel safe. But there's that other extent. That means it's calling for a new idea, you know, that we need to, what kind of security are we talking about? We know that the final solution to Karamoja, the Karamoja problem is economic, you know. It's the Human Development Index times the economic development of the area that will finally redeem Karamoja. We for long forgot about this region, stemming from the British, you know, system of divide and rule. So for Karamoja, we need double efforts. First of all, to bring it out of the old ways of fighting each other based on mindset, tribal mindsets and all this. And then at the same time, work on the economic aspects. That is the only solution. The solution to urban strife, the solution to the killings in Kasese, if you study the radicalization of youth, their targets are young, demoralized, hopeless men. Absolutely. And once we solve that problem, we solve all problems. And starts from loving ourselves as we love our neighbors, and eventually it will grow. So we need to, economics is the new insecurity of Uganda. And us, the young people, this is our new idea. We hear the Museveni is calling, please build on our success. This is what they mean. This is what they mean by succession. So we have to now think, ideate, how are we going to secure, and what is the new insecurity, and how are we going to secure our generation? Thank you.
Wow.
But I want to rebut something here.
Yes.
Make addition to what you said.
Please.
When you talk about the security of Uganda, one thing that comes to my mind is to wonder whose security is the government concerned about. One, look at the fact that if an organization is coming up to fight government, it does not even take you a minute before you are identified and arrested immediately. I remember some years ago, Norbert Mao was found with some flash containing documents of the PPF, People's Patriotic Front. Now, if someone is coming to kill the citizens of Uganda, it takes, I mean, we don't detect them, we don't find them.
Ola was giving us the economic dimension of the security problem to Uganda. And I think he did a very nice diagnosis of the problem. And I would like to bring in Honorable Alepel, because I also read a police report somewhere which indicated that over 80% of the inmates at Ruzila and all these other prisons around the country are petty crimes, crimes which result from poverty, you know, these money, mobile money robberies we see around town, these are all crimes that are related to economic frustrations. So understand this week in Parliament, you passed a number of bills that help support to establish a legal framework for implementation of Islamic banking in Uganda. Are you optimistic? Are you excited about this?
Yeah, well, I want to say that, first of all, as a country, we really emphasis is to create economic development. And creation of economic development is definitely to improve the livelihoods of the citizens of this country. The only way you can improve them is creating an environment that can enhance this through possibly industrialization, which will create jobs. And once the citizens have these jobs, definitely this will give them economic empowerment in a way. And I think that is what is all about. So whatever intervention that the government does, that's the aim. And these particular laws were passed. You know, it is just like widening, we're trying to widen the economic base, especially in the financial services sector.
Access to finance.
Yes, and when we embrace the Islamic financing, it definitely has the following effects. One, the array of opportunities to lending or funding is increased. There will also be aspects of increased foreign direct investments through people who will come and invest in that particular sector, especially from the Arab world or the Muslim world, if I may call it. So these are all geared to create such an environment that can enhance economic empowerment in this country. I don't know whether you want me to set in now on Islamic banking or
let me first bring in Hajat Radhia. She was excited right at the beginning. She wanted to give you a hug, but for the rules of Islam, which prohibit such practices. I know. I would like you to tell our viewers why they should be excited about Islamic banking, the opportunities. I don't think many Ugandans out there actually do understand the principles of Islamic banking. I don't think they understand the opportunities. So please, use this moment to educate us.
Thank you, Mr. Before I come to that, Honorable has talked about the issue of widening the economic base. And if I may look at this issue of Karamoja insecurity, In most cases, it rotates around economics.
True.
You know, Honorable who?
Ola.
Councillor
Council Ola,
said
yes.
that an angry person, actually, he's capable of doing anything.
The security threat, yeah.
When you analyze that issue critically, for somebody who is comfortable, you can mention any MP who is comfortable and you can convince him that, please, Honorable, let's tomorrow join the bush so that we'll throw out this government. Will you do so? But to somebody who is hungry, he can do anything. Basically, Islamic banking it's not a deen. Like a deen, it's not a religion, like anybody can think. But look at the situation whereby of recent our president assented on the bill of homosexuality. We all agree that our country has been funded by those people who are in control of those issues. When we allow in Islamic banking to be operational, actually, we have foreign investors who, for them, they feel like they need to invest following the principles of Sharia, which is Islamic. And if tomorrow we say that we are not allowing Islamic banking in Uganda, majority of them may not come in Uganda. Yet we need to attract investors. Basically, Islamic bank, it's like you do any other business. I can take an example of education. We all attend school, okay? And some of us, or your family members, have ever went through Islamic schools. But they were not forced to convert.
Yeah, to become Muslims. Yeah.
Basically, what differs are the principles. Like, for example, in this normal banking or finance, we know that whoever goes for any financial facility, everybody knows that the first point they mention is interest, which is a taboo.
Yes.
For the Islamic principles. We are looking at, like you see, you do pray. Muslims pray and non-Muslims do pray. But we don't pray in the same manner. The rituals that we do in the process of praying do differ. Basically, it's about what are we following. And when you consider Islamic banking, it's all about promoting fairness and equality and transparency.
Sure.
Why are we saying so? Look at these financial institutions. If I tell you enter in any bank or a financial institution and somebody tells you, how much do you need? Like 1 million, they say. And this one person is telling you, okay, I'm giving you 1 million, and then you bring back like 1,200,000. For him, he doesn't care. Whether I benefit from the 1 million or not, it is upon you.
True.
Okay? It's upon you. Whether you fail, and if you consider the default rate in Uganda
It's
in
very
financial
high.
institutions,
It's really very high.
people are losing their homes. People are losing their valued properties. Look at a poor person, a poor lady from, for example, where is there? He went into any money lender or any microfinance institution, and he's like, how much do you need? I need 1 million. I need to inject in my business. Please help me. And okay, what do you have at home? I have my fridge. I have my sideboard. Okay, can you bring them here? The following day, let me tell you, the interest rate in Uganda
is very high.
Is very, very high. Look at the cost of operating a business in Uganda. Consider the taxes. Yes, we need taxes, but they are high. Somebody to sustain a business in Uganda, it is very, very costly. This lending institution is not considering what is out there. So this lady is going to struggle and struggle, and at the end of it, she will lose. In most cases, they do lose their the little they have. I found a lady, she confessed to me. She said, Hajat, let me tell you, for me, I gave up with businesses. And borrowing from financial institutions, I can no longer go there. I started my business. She was selling firewood. She went for a loan in a certain institution. She ended up working for that institution for over the period she stayed in the business.
Wow.
The lady said, please, I ended up, every profit I could receive, I could take it back to the institution.
So what does Islamic banking do differently?
Okay. Basically, Islamic banking looks at sharing the profits you do get. Let's take an example. If you come to my institution, like you see, Hajat, yes, I have a need of finance. I have my business. Basically, it is that person who has a business who is working that can be financed. I have a business, I need an injection. Yes, okay. What model are we going to use? Islamic banking has different models. Like the regulations do tell. They have the where you share the profits, where you can like a trade.
So you first established the existence of a venture.
That is it.
Oh, okay.
Like look at the Financial Institutions Act 2014, which was amended.
Yes.
It paved the way for these other institutions also to conduct trade. Like before, institutions like banks could not own buildings whereby they're going to rent to others, which is the case with Islamic banking. So the amendment brought in that element that in Islamic banking we have areas where you can share in your profits in the business. You come for the finances, we ascertain, we do the documentations, we do the analysis and everything, and then at the end of it,
So
you financed, agreeing to share in the profits you're going to make in your business.
And losses.
And losses.
you share in profits and losses
Basically,
as a financial institution.
as a financial institution.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
if at all you don't benefit from the money you have taken
Yes.
from my institution,
Yeah.
basically will not benefit at all.
So in essence, you're saying that the financial institution becomes my partner in the
That's
business,
it, in the
becomes
business.
an advisor, and we walk the journey along together.
Look at here,
Incredible.
look at this scenario whereby
Yeah.
because I have to share in your profits, I have to make sure that you benefit from my money you're taking.
Incredible.
Basically, I will provide the financial literacy if at all it needs to. I will try to help you that you improve on your bookkeeping.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, you have to make the recordings. Me, the financial institution, I'm not where you're working in your business. And how will I tell that this business entity is making profits or not? It will be after me teaching you. If at all you've not been keeping those books, I try to put you in that docket of being able to do so that I can assess, I have interest in you.
Wow.
That insurable interest
Wow.
that I'll develop in
Sounds-
me. It is what causes me to
Sounds
do what?
interesting for some of
Basically.
us who have borrowed money
Yeah.
and we have had to sell properties to pay back. And the attitude by these banks, when they come for, signing you up, especially as salaried persons, they bring very nice looking ladies. And I think they don't care. The key difference here is that they don't care whether you are going to make a loss or a profit, provided their money is guaranteed through the security you give them. And here I see from Islamic banking, what Ravi is telling us is that essentially the financial institution walks the journey with you. Everything. And when you make a profit, credible. Let me bring in Council Ola. Are you excited by the proposal? Is this a game changer for access to credit for many Ugandans who have been left out for so long?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Harris. To understand Islamic banking, you need to understand the other banks
Exactly.
first. We had a case of Diamond Trust Bank versus the Ham versus Diamond Trust Bank case,
Yes, versus DPP.
which showed us the nature of operations of banks, of the banking system, or Uganda Bankers Association, which someone made a joke that you could change it to Uganda Foreign Banks Association and it would change no meaning. Because we do not own the capital within the country. And once you don't own capital as a people, and you don't run your own banks as a people, really you cannot do much.
True.
The banking system in Uganda is full of a lot of international banks, or with majority or substantial shares of a lot of international banking institutions.
True.
Many of them maintaining, but many of them joined the Ugandan economy during the boom of the 90s and 2000s.
True.
But many of them currently just maintaining. There's an IMF report that came out this week. Many of them just maintaining right now the branches for purposes of global footprint. So we have banks that pay the basic fee, I mean the amount that you're supposed to have, which is 25 billion shillings, and barely float the banking system. The interest is not in the people. And therefore, the KPI of the people running the banks within the country is to find as much as they could.
Can you please break that down for us?
Now,
What do you
the
mean
key
by
performance indicator.
Oh, okay.
Now, when the economy was booming, many banks could loan to you, you import, sell, and pay them back.
Yes.
The economy has been a bit stagnant. And then we had COVID. So the report by IMF showed that banks that had good prospecting clients are losing them because the state of the economy is hard right now. Therefore, the banking system has chosen to go into, Uganda has a very high asset value per capita, meaning the average Ugandan has a lot more assets comparative to our regional friends. You have averagely more land than the average Kenyan, the average Tanzanian. So the banks have identified that, and now that is the business model. It's a perverted business model to try and, predate, because Harris doesn't have liquidity, but he has land. So they are sweeping. And now they say fish rots from the top. We have tier 4 banking institutions and all these others. They have seen the same trick. And that's why even the microfinance are predating our land and all these kind of things. It's a whole rotten system. But Islamic banking, and Islam is a beautiful religion because it accepts the Torah, the Old Testament, the Injil, the New Testament, and finally the final revelation to Muhammad, which is Sharia. And Sharia in nature is a practice. So, someone said, and I don't mean to offend, that Christianity, Islam is Christianity, but with practice. So
very grounded in Islam, huh?
So we and that is why if you study an Islamic family, you see that even the way the day is run is broken down and into practices and all this. The Sharia is a way of life.
Okay.
And just to conclude, it's so compatible because what she has just said is what we do as brothers. I can come to you, Harris. I have an amazing idea.
Exactly.
Please, let's invest and we cut these profits. I'm going to run it. Just, I need your money. But because you've invested your money, so the Islamic banking is not new. It is just purely entrenching in our African nature, our own nature, our African nature, rather than the Western predatory nature. So it's a breath of fresh air, and I think we should embrace it.
Incredible.
But maybe she should also inform whether Christians and other religions have access, but also ask the rest of the people, we should embrace some of these principles and continue to expand ourselves and build capital within ourselves, our families, villages, tribes, and country.
Before I come back to Rathia,
before you go to anybody, it has been a question whether we Christians, Christians have access to it. Basically, when you consider the countries that do practice Islamic banking, look at UK. The most profitable institutions in the whole world, you find them in UK. USA, they do practice Islamic banking, and those are countries which are basically predominantly Christians. Okay, so everywhere, look at Kenya. The Muslims are the minorities, but they do practice Islamic banking. Something is basically the way of life, the way of conducting finance, following those principles which considers fairness, transparency, and justice.
All right. We are going to take a very short break, and when we return, Honorable Alepel will take us through reasons why you found it deeming to pass a legal framework to support Islamic banking in Uganda. To our viewers, thank you always for staying with us. Please allow us take a short break. And then when we return, we shall pick it up from there. You're watching Focus on Parliament here at Civic Space TV. Please do follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Civic Space TV. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the short break. You're watching Focus on Parliament here at Civic Space TV. Before we broke off, we were still trying to understand the principles of Islamic banking, framework, a legal framework of which Parliament has passed, and looks like this is the news that many Ugandans are welcoming. Now, Honorable Alpel Moses, would like you to, you've heard from colleagues on the panel. Why did the Parliament pass this law? What are the reasons? What did you see that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, thank you, Aris. Actually, this law should have been passed just before on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think it was supposed to be
a gift.
For
Eid
a gift for the Muslim community.
Yeah.
Yeah, what actually happened was 4 of the bills were actually passed, except one which we stood over because we had not yet harmonized on some issues. Islamic banking legal framework was actually passed in 2016 by the Parliament of Uganda, but it had not been operationalized because of some issues that were not practicable. In fact, one such thing was what is called the Central Sharia Advisory Council, which is supposed to sit in Bank of Uganda. It had not been operationalized because of so many issues. It became impracticable to operationalize it for various reasons. One of the reasons was it definitely would create some bit of regulatory conflict within the central bank, because that board is supposed to approve some products. You can imagine approving a product and then also being the one to regulate it. So it became difficult to operationalize it. Then there are MDIs that had actually operationalized some windows of Islamic banking. And the law also provided for Central Sharia Advisory Council. So it would create a multiplicity of regulatory functions, like at MDI level, then again at the tier 1 and that sort of thing. So it became rather difficult to do it. So what was brought to us was to amend the law, Financial Institutions Act, so that it can be able to operationalize. In fact, since 2016, Bank of Uganda has not issued any license to any financial institution to operate it because of that bottleneck. So one of the amendments actually was to repeal that part of the law that provides for the Central Sharia Advisory Council, so that we do away with it and only have advisory boards at institutional level, that's at bank level. But of course, I want to say that what actually this law provides for is to have within the financial sector windows for Islamic banking within the institutions. That's why any bank can have it and then have that window of Islamic banking. And
Any bank meaning it doesn't have to be a bank founded on the foundations
not
of
necessarily.
Islam.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
As long as you follow the principles based on Sharia, you can practice that window of Islamic banking.
Good.
And this particularly involves Islamic financial services, which is the normal banking bit, and then takaful. Takaful is the insurance.
Yeah, maybe related to that for our viewers, because I want this to be clearly understood. Does that mean that even non-Muslim Ugandans who want to access credit from these financial institutions practicing Islamic banking can access the service?
Yes, as Rabia had actually said, it is for anyone who is interested in the service. It's not based on religious denomination, but anyone can access. So it can be anyone can do it. Any financial institution that is that can get licensed and is interested in carrying out that business can open that window for Islamic financial services and takaful, which I said is insurance services. So ours was to amend the law so that we put a provision for all the taxation laws on this. So first of all, to do away with the advisory council, then two, to provide for stamp duty, VAT, value added tax, excise duty, then income tax on any business that is an Islamic bank that can earn income that is taxable. So that's what we wanted to embrace, so that we put it in the taxation framework of this country.
Wow.
So that was the reason for the amendment. Unfortunately, it passed. But of course, some small thing of contention was the definition of interest.
Yes.
You know, according to them, interest, which is riba, according to Sharia, is something that is forbidden in Islamic law. So we wanted to make sure we create a definition for interest, so to provide for Islamic financial services when you're practicing it.
All right.
Yeah. So that.
Thank you very much. Let me bring you Cromwell. There's interesting conversation going on here. I would like to know, you are a peace and conflict management researcher at the premier university, Makerere University. What do you make of what you're hearing? Should ordinary Ugandans, especially excluded ones, be excited about the economic opportunities that await them?
It is a very interesting initiative that has come so late. Wish it had come about maybe 37 years ago. We would be very far now.
But now it has come.
It has now come.
It has finally come.
Yes, about 5-6 years ago, I was actually implementing a project funded by the Islamic Development Bank. You should be aware of the Drylands Integrated Development Project in Karamoja, implemented by Millennium Promise Alliance.
Great.
And very excellent, and the impact are very visible on the ground.
Great.
So it is something worth embracing and ensuring that it contributes really to the development of our country, as indicated in the Islamic Sharia. You know, of course, Islam is about, as this says, about humanity, family coming together and sharing on our challenges and opportunities. However, I wonder, of course, why a government has had to wait for the Islamic banking opportunities to come after failing to strengthen and not kill the Uganda Commercial Bank, which could have actually done something far better. By now, we would be a better country economically. I would think, regardless of the fact that the country is going through to embrace Islamic banking, there is urgent need also to reconsider the revival of the Uganda Commercial Bank to empower the farmers, and also bring what we call the cooperative bank as it is in Kenya and other countries to empower us. I think that is the way we should be going to. Otherwise, I fully support and will encourage fellow citizens to give support to the Islamic banking. Maybe it's going to cause an economic revival and a revolution in our country. Thank you.
Would you be willing to start a campaign to, educate Ugandans about the benefits of Islamic banking?
Why not? Of course, it is something worthy, and I should be able to to do that. But alongside that, we need to reconsider the Uganda Commercial Bank that was created by the Uganda People's Congress. And you know what they did in this country?
All right.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why my honorable friend is happy with my submission.
Is he a former congressman?
He is a financial. That is obvious.
He's been groomed by Congress.
He is. That's why he's a good man.
Thank you
You
for
know, all
the
congressmen are good
He's
people.
a good man.
Thank you for the good bit of it.
Incredible. Hajat Rathia,
Yes,
you've heard the gentleman, Council Ola has described Islamic banking as institutionalization of Ubuntu, which runs in the DNA of Uganda and Africa at large. You know, humanity, humanism, brotherhood in investment, in businesses, that business shouldn't be about making a profit, but solving a problem. And Cromwell, Peter, has said that it should have come more than 37 years ago, would be very far.
In fact, before you go there, let me bring from the perspective of peace.
Yeah.
You see, this is now going to create that peaceful coexistence
Okay.
between the Muslims and other faiths. So as a peace builder, really,
Yes.
who visited the mosque and other places, I think it is an opportunity for us now to come together on the table of brotherhood and do business regardless of our religious persuasions.
Incredible.
Sure.
Incredible. And Honorable Alipel Moses has said that this law, you know, the Islamic banking is going to help expand access to credit, especially for the poor Ugandans. Looks like it's an interesting idea, and I would like to ask you, for the benefit of our viewers, what are other benefits that you can point us to?
actually, my brother here has said that it would have come earlier,
Long ago.
long ago,
Yeah.
than today. We are crying over the issue of unemployment. You find a poor Ugandan who doesn't have securities and is interested in getting finances from these institutions. Islamic banking has an element whereby you, the financer, we have, you'll excuse me, I may say these models in their own ways.
Yeah.
We have what we call a mdaraba arrangement, whereby I have the money and you have nothing.
Yes.
You approach me, the financer, and you're like, you see, I have a business here. Why don't we come together and explore it? Basically, we enter into an arrangement, and I bring my finances to you. You do the management. We have brothers and sisters here who has some money. They have money, and they need to invest in different ventures, what we call diversification, and they don't have a way to do so.
Great.
Please come on board. Please do that. And at the end of the day, you'll get an employment. You'll be employed rather than going abroad for chair. Okay? If a brother has this and he can have access to the finance, at the end of the day, he'll become employed, and then that issue of unemployment will be done. Look at the issue of inclusion, financial inclusion. We have brothers and sisters, especially Muslims, given the setting of the commercial banks on this conventional way of interest, whereby when I deposit my money on my account, it will accrue an interest, however little it may be. There are some people out there who feel that they don't want to hear that element. And others are like, for me, I cannot come for the finances, however much they may need it. We need to tap all these monies they do have. Some are keeping them from their homes. The government, through its fiscal policy, they try to sell out bills to the community so that it attracts those monies outside. It cannot achieve it, because even at the end of the day, they say, we shall give you an interest of this much.
All right.
We need to bring all those monies into the economy. We are lacking finances in the economy. We need it. We need to attract them. So I call upon all those commercial banks to embrace Islamic banking. It can be operated under, an institution can come in as a fully funded Islamic financial institution that is going to offer Islamic banking alone. Like for me at Hijaz, I do Islamic banking. There is also an element whereby it can bring in a subsidiary.
How long have you been operating?
It is coming into 3 years.
3 years.
It's 3 years.
Wow.
There is a way where it can come in with a subsidiary. You have your commercial bank with you, and you're like, I'm bringing in another venture, another structure, whereby our customers who are interested in Islamic banking, where you'll be served from. It is also an avenue. And another one, they can operate an Islamic window. But you have the same structure, but you have given room to other customers to access what they want. What we are looking for is to have access to these finances, to have inclusion of those people who are out there, and we need to tap their money to come in. It will promote justice. It will promote brotherhood. Look at your brother, your sister at home. Or you look at your neighbor who is a credit officer in a certain bank where you went for a loan. It was that very one who came to your door to scratch whatever you have. How will you live tomorrow? Will it be in harmony? We don't need to hate each other. We need to promote humanity, brotherhoodness in the society. It will take us back to the issue of security. Look at the scenario that happened to Muyindi last time. What do you think it was its cause? Because of that. Basically, let us embrace. These banks may say that the citizens are not aware of the Islamic banking. Please, no. I'm letting everybody to know this, that I can give them an assignment. Please try one day. Walk in that institution, Hijaz, and ask them how many members do they have at the moment. They will find out from there. I'll not give you an answer. But those issues of saying this, the masses are not aware, it is a no. Whoever gets to know about these people have hate interest. It would have been there, operationalized as it has been. But given the way these commercial banks are structured, managed, the most share capital is for the foreigners. At the end of the day, they share their dividends and accrue them back to their countries. For them, they don't care. Ugandans, let us embrace Islamic banking and finance. When it comes to human resource, the students have been there. They have studied the Islamic banking. My brother here, Ola, knows Islamic banking. And we have practitioners now. They are there. Let us embrace them. Let us bring them on board. And some banks, they have taken back their staff to study Islamic banking. So they are ready. Only that we are waiting for the honorables to pass the bills. You'll hear what will happen next.
Thank you, Honorable Pera and the team, for finally passing these incredible pieces of legislations which were aimed at providing a legal framework for the implementation of Islamic banking in Uganda. I want to conclude this subject of Islamic banking with you, Okotola, the lawyer. And we had in plenary, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi expressing concern and actually making a plea to the powers that be, that please, quote unquote, please, this is not about Islam, this is about access to finance for the country. Please don't sabotage this program. Let it operate for the benefit of all Ugandans. Honorable Council Court, do you see the president signing the bills for Islamic banking?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I see the president looking deeply into it. I see him calling all his advisors. He's a good student of you should remember that the president started his career as a researcher in another president's office.
Okay.
the president
Of
of
UPC.
Congo.
No, the president of all the people of Uganda.
So the president is a good
Okay.
is a good researcher,
All right.
but I expect this bill to be passed eventually. The time has come. It's not a very old type of law. I mean, the practice of it, yeah, but institutionalizing it, many of the countries, it's not even 40, 50 years. But then I see it eventually being passed. We might have rigors. It's a war against the mainstream system. But I see eventually, with further debate, he mentioned that one of the issues stayed behind, one of the bills. With further debate, further deliberation, Islamic banking will eventually
Council,
come to pass.
the reason I asked you this question is because Honorable Pell earlier indicated that the idea was actually introduced in the form of a bill in 2016.
Yes.
And in your submission, you told us that actually these conventional banks, most of which are international in character, are premised on a contrary kind of paradigm.
Yes.
There is profit maximization. Islamic banking is based on Ubuntu, profit and loss sharing.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's an introduction, the power dynamics that are involved is what I would like you to address.
Yes, that's so it's an issue of information that our president understands the bill. I think last time when he returned, there's a bill we discussed that he returned and requested that from now, your bills should have a cover letter or something like that. So the president, the information that he receives on the quality and the importance of Islamic banking versus the pressures that he has from the international banking community. Because it's not a weak arm. It's an arm that twists. And we know from structured adjustment programs,
but
the power
will be
of
challenging
neoliberal,
international corporations.
the power of, Armstronging from the SAPs in the 90s. So that is a balance. Our president is unpredictable, so I cannot say yes or no. But I think the truth and good always wins. I would love to believe that. And I think it will eventually pass.
And as you respond,
just a very quick one. I want to assure you that, by the way, we have considered the operations of the financial sector. And much as we don't talk of interest or whatever, there's no way the operationalization of Islamic banking can cause distortion in the market. That has been taken care of.
Yes, that's the information.
It has been actually taken care of. So there should be no worry about that. And I think it was just good to share this with Ugandans that bit has been...
So you're confident that the president will assent it and the institutional framework will be put in place and the Islamic banking will be implemented in the country?
I am very highly confident that actually the president will sign to it, because the one which was stifling the operationalization is that Central Sharia Council, which actually we have done very well.
Thank you.
All right, we are now going to shift our gears to our last segment of this show, which is an issue that has been a controversy in the public domain. The decision by the DPP to discontinue prosecution of those high government officials implicated in the Karamoja, so it has been described, the Karamoja Iron Sheets scandal. He took a decision to close a file of 17 high-profile government officials, the implication of which means that they have no case to answer. According to her counsel, Jane Francis, she says that there was not enough evidence to continue prosecution of these members. Let's start with you, counsel. What do you make of that? Is this two kinds of justice for Ugandans?
I believe you wanted a legal perspective.
Yes.
But I can tell you there is nothing legal, or the legal aspect to this case is actually very minimal. There is nothing that I can say about corruption in this regime that the president hasn't said himself. That it wasn't a priority when they came into power. That the IGG should not pursue passionately, so passionately, the corrupt individuals in government,
Yeah.
and all these aspects. It's not. It's corruption, from the statements of the president himself, was not something that they set out to deal with from the beginning.
Wow.
And just as you cannot say the discoverers of fire were primitive because they didn't know electricity,
Yeah.
so you cannot also just, it's something that is just distant from.
Can you repeat that for me? What do you mean that the
the
president,
people,
the regime didn't set out to
they did,
fight corruption?
I'm paraphrasing from his statement.
Okay.
That at the beginning,
okay.
of course there are people, there was the they call it the mass line that came from the bush that had to collaborate with the technicals.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, the emphasis was operationalizing a state and teaching statecraft to the people who had come from the mass line, and in partnership with the technicals at the time.
Are you saying that corruption was not in the 10-point program?
No, I'm using the paraphrasal of the president in one of his many speeches around the issue of corruption. The president had a core agenda. Yesterday, he passed 9,000 new trainees, and you could see the passion boiling in the pictures, in the statement. That was his stability of the country. It was achieved starting from the central, the west, the east, after Lakwena, and about 20 years later, the north. And we generally have that environment. That was the core idea of these people. And that idea has come to pass. We have grown up in peace. We have grown up in a lot of, a generally stable stable environment, right? And it's something that they boast heavily about. Sometimes, maybe it's not that it's a failure. And these are the things democracy borrows from nature, because what nature does is a natural transition. Nature recognizes that each generation has a purpose and phases out the old. Democracy then picks out that perspective and tries to bring it to another perspective and says we need to always vote our leaders in and out. Therefore, it shows that there's a time, and I cannot speak using a language of incubancy like my brother, because they are living in their time. Ours is the time of the future. These are the topics that we need to discuss as topics of the future. How can we ideate a governance system of Uganda that does not tolerate corruption? Because clearly this idea, because it starts from an idea, then the study of the idea makes it an ideology. And then there's emotions drive that ideology into action. And the repetition of that becomes a habit. Now that cycle within this government is that of stability. Now that transition, and these are the things we need to discuss as when we're discussing transition, rather than the agents of transition, discuss the ideology of transition. So whenever I see these repetitive habits, I've told you the cycle, repetitive habits of corruption and tolerance of corruption and all these things, I see that. So maybe, like I said, you cannot blame the discoverer of fire for not knowing electricity. And it's our time to start thinking and compounding ideas, and they come from the leadership that we will set up in the future to come. We have seen Rwanda, that tolerance, the country can decide and stop this culture of corruption, and it does thrive. Thank you.
Consola, if I get you very well, are you saying that corruption is part of the DNA of the RM government?
No, I'm saying that their core DNA is peace and stability.
But you're also saying that they're incapable of saving this country of corruption, which means part and parcel of
not that it is their DNA, not that it was intended to be part of their DNA, but by omission, it has become part of the DNA.
So, but I'm also saying, in effect, that their main achievement is peace and security, and we shouldn't expect anything more from them.
Yeah, I said you cannot blame the discoverers of fire for not discovering electricity.
All right.
All right,
thank you. Let me come to you. You're a member of parliament. You're a member of the National Resistance Movement. which is the party
Very
with
proud
the,
one.
with the he alleges that your former Congress. Yeah, but that's a discussion for another day. The point is that the decision of the DPP, where does it leave institutions like the anti-corruption institutions like IGG, the Auditor General? Are they still, after that, have they been inspired to wake up on a Monday morning to go and do their work?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I want to tell my friend, I'm probably NRM. Actually, NRM is the first political party I've joined, but I lived in the times of the UPC, but
Yeah.
and I wasn't politically active.
You are
Yes.
still young.
Yeah, well, of course, what we know, and I'm sure Councillor Allah will bear witness, maybe I will be corrected. I think the decision of the DPP is not questionable. Nobody questions it, except when maybe you appeal and do something. But normally it's the final one in the prosecution.
Why
I mean,
It is the final one in the prosecution ladder.
that is true.
Yeah, legally, constitutionally speaking,
So,
his decision, her decision cannot be questioned, but morally speaking,
Yeah, it's why we cannot.
yeah,
divide
that's what I was
this.
saying. Me,
Okay.
I actually respect the decision by the DPP, but it doesn't remove me from having an opinion. And as leaders from Karamoja, the bare facts are the intervention that was meant for Karamoja was mismanaged. In some instances, it was stolen. So far, the DPP has discounted our efforts on Mabati. But there are still four files with her that are still active so far. But even these other files that have been closed, it's because at this time, there isn't adequate evidence. I'm sure if some evidence comes through even some other arms that are investigating, possibly they can be reactivated.
But
Then-
just
yes.
before you go, we are told that about 6,000 iron sheets were returned. And others made monetary compensation, those who couldn't return the physical iron sheets. Isn't that, legally speaking,
Yeah, the
isn't-
case of Mukula.
Isn't that
The
legal,
case of
isn't
Mukula-
that enough evidence?
The
that
case of
there was,
Mukula was convicted after returning the money. Because he said, "Oh, I did not know he has the money."
Yeah.
And court said, "Good, now you
have
have
confirmed."
confirmed."
Yeah, you see, now I don't want also to preempt. I don't know who the other four files are belong
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But what we also know is there's still 6,000 iron sheets that have not yet been returned. But what I'm saying is it doesn't remove that fact that actually items were mismanaged. But I also want to tell you that Mabati was only 80 billion out of the 39. There are still issues that are supposed to come up with the GOATs, which took 25 billion of the budget, and then the peace initiatives, where people already have been charged, which took 10 billion. So there's still hope in that. But of course, as a leader from Karamoja, I want to tell the people of Karamoja, there's still hope in that. There are still some issues, and it involves the same people, so they might not escape the trap. And then also, there is the other opening. The president promised that there's also room for political action to be taken. Possibly that will also help us. But as I said, it doesn't remove the fact that this injustice was meted to the Karamojong. The people who were given the responsibility, who pretended over this, mismanaged it, and that fact is there. In fact, I keep repeating that it is like saying you have leprosy, then you wear masks. You wear masks, doesn't remove the leprosy, but hides it. So that's what I would want to say.
Well, I would like to clarify that the injustice was not meted against only the Karamojongs. Well, they might have been the direct beneficiaries, but it was an injustice and an abuse to all Ugandans, really. Yeah, because this was taxpayers' money, and we collectively we are one political entity, and know there's a saying that justice anywhere. Injustice anywhere is just injustice everywhere. Cromwell,
Yes, please.
where does this decision leave us, given the talk by the head of state about combating corruption. He's been on television numerous times calling upon the NRM cadres to combat corruption. And he has even, I want to quote him, said that I am coming for all those government officers who are corrupt. Should we still continue to believe the words of Mr. Museveni?
Thank you, Harris, and thank you, Ugandans, for paying attention to this matter. I first want to get to what my colleague here was saying about corruption fight not being the priority of the NRM. I am not sure whether it is in the 10-point program, because even if it is not there or there, then you cannot fight yourself in this government. Fighting corruption is like fighting yourself. Corruption was not a UPC thing. My president, your president, Uganda, did not tolerate corruption. And so a system that runs, the engine that runs a government cannot be destroyed. I therefore take the president's talk as mere rhetoric. Yeah. I want to applaud my honorable friend, a good member of parliament from Karamoja, for always coming front line with the other three to stand up for Karamoja people. I don't know how many you are. 18?
We are 26.
We are 26, but we only had 3-4 of them coming on television and disagreeing with the Director of Public Prosecution on this matter of Karamoja. You see, while it is said to be the matter of Karamoja, it is a Ugandan matter.
Exactly.
When I'm traveling out of Uganda, I don't go out of Uganda using the Karamoja passport.
Exactly.
You don't go out of Uganda using a Buganda passport.
Exactly.
Neither will you go out of the country using a Chole passport.
Exactly.
I use the Uganda passport because I'm a Ugandan. And therefore, that's why I consider that the matter that affects one part of Uganda should be considered as a national matter that must draw the attention of every member of parliament. In fact, their coming together did not only require them, members of parliament from Karamoja, it also required other MPs from all across Uganda who think that Karamoja is part of the country to come and disagree with the Director of Public Prosecution there in the public. Now, the question of Karamoja underdevelopment, as you know, this is a country, a community with over 66% poverty rate, you know, and letting out other members of parliament, other guys who stole from Karamoja and leaving the others. The question is, who supervises the minister of Karamoja? That is supposed to be the prime minister. The vice president is senior to all to them. The speaker of parliament, who are also implicated, they're senior to these guys. How do you begin to handle these small people, the minister for Karamoja, and you leave their supervisors who are in the full knowledge of the theft of the Iron Sheets? That therefore means that it's a political system and it's not the law that is in control of the situation. Corruption in Karamoja, the marginalization of the Karamoja people, in my view, should be a deliberate thing meant to keep that community in abject poverty for long. Now, there are also cases from, some talks from other people all across from the Karamoja community.
As you conclude.
Yes, as I conclude, that for Karamoja to change, we need a minister who is a Karamoja. I totally disagree with that. Why? Look at this scenario. Now, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, there are trucks upon trucks that leave Karamoja with the minerals going out of that community. And the people are poor, the children are in the street. The question is, who is the minister for minerals? The minister for minerals actually is a Karamoja. So if it is therefore means that a Karamojong is the one who can become a minister of Karamoja and settle Karamoja affairs, why is the minister who is in charge of mineral watching the privilege, the exploitation of the region when he's supposed to have done something, you know? So generally speaking, there is a question to be answered. So I expected my honorable members of parliament to come together, collect all the NRM party cards, and in protest, return them to the NRM reporters and say, we are divorcing you until you pay close attention to the question of Karamoja.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Indeed, there are so many questions to be answered. Who to answer them? We exactly don't know. But our time is fast spent, and I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give each one of you only 30 seconds to give your last message to our viewers, and we will start with you, Council Olaokot.
Yeah, thank you very much for Harris for inviting me, actually calling me to an action. These are all actions that we take. to be able to improve our country, especially for our future. Our future is very much at stake with everything that is happening. This is a chance as we continue to grow in the art of teaching and enlightening our colleagues, because that is the most important thing, to inform and to inspire. Thank you very much, and let's keep working together for a better Uganda.
Thank you, Council Olawokot. Next is Cromwell Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Aris, and my fellow citizens for the opportunity. Uganda is our country, and the responsibility of developing this country lies entirely on our shoulders. Whatever good development initiatives that the government comes along with, we should embrace. And where there is corruption, we should rise up as citizens of Uganda and say corruption is evil regardless of who practices it, and kick it out of this country, so that we will join the rest of other countries that are developing and moving forward. For the people of Karamoja, the development of Karamoja and the peace of that community also belongs to us. Let us join hands together with our elected leaders and come together and build our own peace first, as other Ugandans will come to join us later. I thank you.
Thank you. Hajat Rathia.
Yes, I thank you, Mr. Harris. To me, I would thank you, Mr. Harris, with the management of this TV, for having invited me to throw some light on the issue of Islamic banking, basically. Though I've not said anything on the issue of Mabati, to me, it's not a wonder, because basically I may ask right from the start, was Mabati the problem to the Karamoja people, to the Karamoja? Why did they choose to go into Mabati than other issues? Just of recent, they've been dying of hunger. Why did the government invest in irrigation rather than Mabati? Maybe that is what they saw.
They
that
need
was
an Islamic banker.
Basically, and since whatever has happened in that way, personally, it's not a question. Maybe they had a reason as to why they chose to go into Mabati. And I'd like to thank you.
So not why that they got...
Basically, I need to remind the Ugandans that Uganda is not aiming at 2040. The decisions we are making today, it's about our mindset change. Once you decide to change it in a positive way, that is where we shall go. Negatively, it takes us back from where we have been coming from. Basically, I need to thank you once again, together with my panelists, for having discussed about this issue elaboratively. So we welcome everybody to come on board.
Thank you for
so
honoring my invitation.
Okay.
Been very thoughtful of you. Yes, Honorable Alpel Moses, your final words.
Yeah, Aris, thank you. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for affording me a platform where I can add on those who share what the Parliament of Uganda does or plays in the development of this country. And in this particular one, I want to say that would want to thank the government of Uganda and all other stakeholders who played a role in making sure that this legislation on Islamic banking was passed, and we look forward to operationalizing it. And where improvements are required, we should be able to bring them in place. Once again, I want to thank Civic Space for affording me this opportunity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an engaging and really interesting conversation. I hope that our viewers have enjoyed it as I have. You've been watching Focus on Parliament, a show where we help you break down what is happening in Parliament here at Civic Space TV. From my team and myself, it's a goodbye. It's a nice weekend. Until next Saturday, bye-bye. Remember, don't drink and drive.